Hi friends, welcome back to the channel today. If you haven't seen my last video about why I love adoption, I want you to go watch that right after this one or watch it first, because I just want you to know before we get into why I hate adoption, I want you to know why I love adoption. So go watch that first if you need to. So by the way, my name is Winter Hendrickson. I'm a mom of 4 kids, all adopted from the foster care system, and then I have 1 child that we're adopting from China. I love my children and I love adoption, but in this video I'm going to talk about something that is negative a little bit. There is some things that I do not like about adoption, and I wanted to put them out there for you so that if you're considering adoption or if you're an adoptee, like, I hear you, I know you, I see you. If you're an adoptive mom, like, I see you, I know you, I hear you. Like, there are things, some negative sides to adoption, and by no means am I trying to just spread hate or just drama. Like, I just want there to be facts out there, because some of this we can change. Some of this we can do better at, and we can help change the culture of adoption and do better. So this is why I'm doing this. So stick around for all this. So yeah. Jumping right in here again of 8 reasons why I hate adoption. The number 1 reason is trauma. The trauma that comes with adoption is so incredibly dark. Like, even if a child was adopted from birth from a loving biological mother who just couldn't care for the child and given to another family from day one, and it was cared for, loved, nothing happened during the pregnancy, no drinking, no drugs, it's just a very well taken care of child, that child can still experience trauma from being separated from their birth mother and father. So I want to throw that in there. Trauma is a bear, and adopting kids through the foster care system, from kids that have been, abused and neglected in so many different ways, it's tough. It's a really tough situation, and you just do your best you can as an adoptive mom to help take that pain away through counseling services, through prayer, through communication, through connection, through learning another adoptive principle, another principle about how to connect with your child. Like, there's so many books out there, and it takes a lot of research and a lot of work to overcome trauma, and that's why I hate adoption in that sense. Like, it's really hard. Like, I feel like I am being a little dramatic about it, but like, it really is hard. The trauma part of adoption can be a bear, and there is some kids, like I have some of my kids that on the outside you may like, oh, they're not really traumatized at all, like there's no like weird stuff there, but under the surface there is things going on and still things they need to work through. And just because a kid can overcome their adverse experience doesn't mean they didn't experience it. It doesn't mean that trauma didn't happen. It's just they were able to overcome a little easier, if that makes sense. So trauma is the number 1 reason why I hate adoption. So number 2 is the very need for it. It shouldn't have to exist, but it does, and this is where we are. And we are joyful over our children, of course. We love them, but honestly, I would have rather them live with their biological family the rest of their life if it was healthy. That's hard to say. I mean, I don't know very many adoptive parents that would say that. I don't feel like I was plan A for their life, but I am a happy plan B. So if that makes sense. And God is redemptive, and he works into a storyline to bring redemption into hard places. But I hate the need for adoption, that it is there, that kids are abandoned, that kids are abused, they are neglected, or have to be given up for whatever reason. Because like I said, it would have been better for them to be with their birth family if it was healthy. So in some situations. So my number 3 reason is identity struggles for the child. We experience that quite a bit, especially like when you adopt cross-culturally. We have kids that are Korean refugees, and we have Native American children, and now we have a Chinese child that is getting brought into our home, and we are white. If you didn't notice, I am white. So there is some identity issues there, and not just culturally, I would say also just traditionally, religion, like your religion, like that's different. How they look, like There's a huge need for adoptive children to see photos of aunts and uncles and parents and to see what they're going to look like when they're older. I look at my mother and I am the spitting image of my mother. Facts. So like that's just like important to know like how you're going to grow up. And there's also like medical history. I mean, there's so many reasons why kids have some identity issues when they are adopted. A lot of this can be remedied though, guys. Like if you can find some healthy birth family connections to associate with that child, that would help them to, you know, overcome some of these issues. I read some books that said if you look around and you're a white person adopting kids that are of a different ethnicity than you and all you have is white adults around you, you might need to find some adults that are healthy that they can look at that look like them, that have their same culture and same, so they can identify. It's very important. So like if you have Native American children, do you have any Native American adult friends that they can look to learn culture? It's so important. So important. Okay. I mean, there's so many studies done on this and so many kids that are just like screwed up. There's this whole like concept of these Korean kids that were adopted from Korea, of course, and they get into college and they try to get into the Korean groups and they say these sayings like they're adopted by white people that says, I am too Korean to hang out with white people and I'm too white to hang out with Korean people. There's just this identity struggle. So there's groups out there for them, so these adoptees that they can be a part of, but I mean we got to talk about these things. So, and I feel like we can do better, and I feel like we're doing better every single year acknowledging this, and it's very important. Number 4, rude or ignorant comments. This is just a tough one. Like I feel like I don't get it a lot in my community because it's a smaller community and people know us, and we're kind of like a little bit of a melting pot in our little town here where there's lots of different cultures, and our kids can, you know, we can kind of like, you know, people don't necessarily notice that our kids are adopted, but I mean, we look different. I have white skin, they have brown skin, and people do notice when I go to a different town and they stare or they say stuff like they just say stuff. I don't even need to say it. You know what they say. You know what people say to people. So just unkind things, and the kids hear those things, and that's really hard on them. And like the adoptive parents hear those things, and it's just unjust. Like you're just doing the best you can, and there's just no need for it. So unless you're like part of someone's life, just keep it positive. And adoptive parents, if you hear a rude comment, just, you know, kindly educate, because people are just ignorant, and it's hard. It's really hard. It's a hard part of adoption, things I don't like. Number 5, people that don't understand like the cost of adoption, or think that like I paid for a child. I hate that so much. Like when someone says something like, oh, children should not have a price tag. You are 100% right. And honestly, like when we are adopting from China, I'm not buying a child. Like I just want to express that very clearly. Like we don't buy children. That is against the law, and almost everywhere you go in the whole world, that is against the law. And you pay for lawyer fees, you pay for airplanes to get to the place where you're getting the child, and you are paying for documents to be filled out. You're paying for agencies. These people work full time to help you adopt your child, to make sure it's legally done. You're paying for orphanages. Like you're paying for that orphanage might have taken care of your child for 5 or 6 years. You're paying the fees that it took for them to take care of your child, and for workers to work full time to care for your child. There's so many different fees, and there might have been a few corrupt things that happen in the adoption community, like with fees and things, but in the United States that is not happening, like at all. If you do a domestic adoption, like that's not happening. Like it goes to lawyer fees. It's actually against the law for you to give money to the birth family directly. That doesn't happen. So you're not buying children, okay? I mean, I'm sure it happens, but that's called trafficking, okay? Let's just be real, okay? Whew, okay, I'm not trafficking children, all right? And I don't like that culture. It's yucky. So number 6 here is cultural connection loss. And I kind of touched on that a little bit with identity. And when a child loses their culture, it's really sad, and we can just do better. We really can. And you should have a cultural plan for your child if you did adopt them cross-culturally. You should be thinking about ways to connect them with their culture. Even if it's uncomfortable for you to know that tradition, think about your child when they come into your home and have your tradition. So they might feel uncomfortable as well. And you'll find new traditions together, and build that differently together. To the best of your ability, we should be learning their culture and teaching them those things. Like we're adapting from China right now. We're learning some Mandarin. We are going to celebrate the Chinese New Year. We're going to do different things to connect our child with their culture. We're already searching out people in our community that are Chinese to help our child stay connected to their culture. This is so important. It's such an important, crucial key. And it's growing, but I don't like how the kids lose their culture. It's not fair to them. So loss of family, number 7. Loss is so hard, and like that's where all this trauma comes from. A lot of these kids, they lose connection with siblings, which is just really unfortunate. So if you can connect your child with siblings, the adoptive child with their biological siblings, that's the best, or biological cousins. Even if it's probably inconvenience for the adoptive parents, but like it's so important for them to stay connected to their biological family in the best way, safest way, healthiest way possible. I understand there is circumstances where it's not healthy for the child to connect with an abusive biological relative. So like obviously you protect your child, like they're your child, like you wouldn't let them be around someone that abused them. But like you really do the best you can to stay connected with their biological family as much as possible. Because they're going to seek those out, like when they're older, like that's going to happen. It's inevitable. Not all kids do, but I would say 80 to 90% do. I mean, that's what the research showed. And my number 8 reason why I don't like adoption, and this has changed significantly through the years, but it is the secrecy about adoption. And like this whole feeling of like, you see on like TV shows where people are like telling their sibling like, oh, you're adopted, like, and that's such a bad thing. And like there's like this culture that like you could possibly be adopted, and it's like scandal. And I don't like it when it's a secret. You know, it shouldn't be a secret. Kids should know right away that they're not your biological child. They should know their history. It's their right. It's age appropriately, of course. You don't want to share something that's like too hard for them to understand, but slowly they should know. And it seems to me that like the more you tell a child these things, the better off it will be. It'll just be easier for them to be healthier and overcome their trauma in the future. Yeah. So those are the 8 reasons why I hate adoption. Obviously, I love adoption more than I hate it because I'm a huge advocate for it. I have almost 5 adopted children, and hopefully we can adopt more in the future. I don't know how many more because we have a lot of kids. So if you guys adopt a few, that would help out a lot. So anyway, so if you haven't seen my last video about why I love adoption, go see that. There's some really cool, redemptive, beautiful things about adoption that I shared in there that are so important, that are so beautiful. Like, you're gonna love it. So go to that next video if you haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that, why I hate and love adoption, and I hope you guys are having the best day ever, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.